think about shoulder function, a common injury occurs at the rotator cuff. The rotator cuff is four small muscles, and their job is to create rotation, but that rotation creates compression, meaning that the ball stays tight into the socket. If those muscles get injured, that ball sags slightly in the socket, and that changes the dynamics of the way everything moves in there. So their job through rotation is to create compression. Now, one of the common injuries that happens is people, for either prolonged sitting positions or just disuse over time, or from a traumatic injury, they lose strength to externally rotate their arm. And external rotation is one of the primary functions of the rotator cuff, which is this motion here where we rotate outward. So one of the exercises we can do to help stabilize that would be using a small mini band that's wrapped around there, and we are going to go into a on our belly position and propped up on our elbows. And from here, all I want to do is I'm going to push my hands apart, and that's going to create external rotation at my shoulder. As I get better at this, I want to increase how much weight I'm putting through my arm. So I'm already putting some weight through my arm, which is giving me approximation and sensation to help me stabilize it while I do my external rotation. But if I did a modified plank where I was up on my knees, well, now I'm putting more weight through my shoulders while also engaging some of my core musculature. And then eventually I could go into a full progression where I was in a full plank doing this and externally rotating those arms to stabilize the back of that shoulder. Now, this muscle is a small muscle. It doesn't generate a lot of force, but it does need to have good endurance, because that rotator cuff muscle needs to be active throughout almost every activity. Your movement muscles are the bigger muscles on the outside of it, but your rotator cuff muscle is a stabilizing muscle. So that needs to generate a moderate amount of force for a prolonged period of time. So when you're doing these, our goal is to get to high repetitions. When you first start these, it's a pretty difficult activity, so you might only do 5 or 10 at a time, but we want to be able to do up to 15 repetitions, 2 or 3 sets of those, and then you would progressively increase how much weight you're putting through the arm, and you can even do an isometric hold of that. Rather than increasing the resistance of the band, let's have you increase the amount of time you can hold that band into an externally rotated position.